Magic.
We are the coalition, loud and proud. Professional broadcasts are we. Broadcasting live here on the Worldwide Coalition Media Network. Broadcasting at the Go Local Live Center here at 90 Way Boston Street in the city we love, Providence, Rhode Island. The mean streets, the naked city, the city of 1,000 stories. This hour has become, over the last few weeks, what I love to call libertarian fabulous. We've been graced by people like Arvin Vora, Larry Steele, Justin O'Donnell, Alicia Dern, and in a very special moment, we're going to bring together two cultures, two worlds, deigned never to meet. And I'm talking about the People's Republic, the Socialist Workers' Paradise of Rhode Island, and the next governor from the great state of Texas. And of course, I'm talking about Kory Watkins. Kory, welcome to the coalition for the first time. Thanks for joining us. You're Skyping in live from somewhere in Texas. Where are you in Texas right now?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be on the show. I'm actually about an hour east, maybe about an hour and 15 minutes east of Dallas, just south of Greenville. I'm out in the sticks, just where I'm.
Now, is that a straight shot to? I'm trying to think. The last time I was in Dallas, we'll get right down to issues in a second. But the last time I was in Dallas, I had to drive a truck from Ocala, Florida, across Route 10, up through the bayou, and into Arlington. It was Super Bowl weekend. It was freezing rain and snow in Dallas. They closed the roads, and I was driving a two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive F-250. A remarkable experience because people in Dallas really don't know how to drive in the snow, do they?
I think everybody has that same opinion about everybody else, wherever else they drive.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, let's get right down to it. Kory, first of all, give folks a little bit about a little background info on you, and what I always open up the conversation with, at some point in their lives, every national libertarian leader has what I call their libertarian moment. Something in their lives, an event, economic, intellectual, academic, religious, philosophical, something life-changing happens and they realize, they have that epiphany that they are in fact libertarian fabulous. So tell us about yourself, and when did you become libertarian fabulous?
Well, I think I've always kind of had that ideology in me. I just didn't understand it, and I didn't realize that what I had in my ideology. I've always kind of been a rebel, a renegade, if you will. And so I was doing some research about the war on drugs and some other things, and somebody told me about Ron Paul in 2011. And I guess the rest is history after that. You know, I don't need to say any more. The more I know, the more I realized I didn't know, and so I started looking all over the place on how I can become a part of this movement and become a beacon of freedom. So I'm actually currently seeking the nomination here in Texas for governor. I am the Hunt County chairman for the Libertarian Party, and I'm also on the on the state executive committee in Senatorial District 2 for the Libertarian Party. So I'm pretty heavily involved. I'm really passionate about freedom. I used to have that same passion for sports and some other things, but when I realized that most of the things that I've been told my whole life are a lie, I started getting my priorities straight. And since about 2011, 2012, you know, almost every day of my life, I've been working to try somehow to move the message of freedom forward. So I just feel obligated to do so. I have a wife, I have 2 kids, and I feel like I'm obligated to give them a better opportunity than I have currently when I'm gone.
Absolutely. You know, I believe one of the highest acts of patriotism that one can engage in as an American is running for elected office. You subject yourself to an analysis, an introspection, a diagnosis, a personal exposure that's really unequaled in any other form of life in the United States, particularly these days. You're under a microscope. Every one of your words is parsed, particularly by the 2 major parties who clearly, in states like Texas, where they value freedom, clearly feel like they're under attack. How is the libertarian movement doing in Texas?
The libertarian movement in Texas is doing really good. I'm excited about the future of it. We have a lot of good things in the works. A lot of people behind the scenes are doing some amazing things that, you know, don't get the recognition needed, but I'm pretty sure they don't want the recognition. They're doing it for the better cause of freedom and stuff. But, you know, there's a lot of people doing some great things behind the scenes and pushing the party forward and getting other people involved. And we're, you know, I'm really excited about the future. I think we're going to have a lot of candidates running in the state of Texas. Here in my county, you know, this was an unaffiliated county until I got here a couple years ago, and we're hoping to have a full slate of libertarians on the local county elections as well as the state and districts.
So, what are the issues that are critical to you? What are the issues that drive Kory Watkins, and which of those issues really made you immerse yourself in the libertarian movement as you have?
Right, the three main issues to me, and I would have to say I believe that they resonate with a lot of Texans, and they're being ignored by the legislator. Of course, who would have thought, right?
Right.
So, number one is guns. Gun freedoms are very near and dear to my heart. The Second Amendment. We are very behind here in Texas when it comes to the Second Amendment. Until the last legislation, we were actually with the likes of California, Illinois, New York, and stuff like that, where you couldn't even open carry a pistol.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the open carry movement and other people who pushed that message forward, we broke down a 146-year law that was in place, a Jim Crow law that actually took away the rights of the slaves and that to carry guns. But nevertheless, we changed a 146-year law, and now you can open carry your handgun here in Texas. Now, I disagree with the way it's done, though, because of course they didn't give us all of what we wanted. They gave us a little bit of an amount to say it's some small step in the right direction to keep us happy. You know what I'm saying? But you still have to get a license. You still have to ask your government for permission, and you still have to get your fingers printed. Which I refuse to do. Matter of fact, I would still open carry my long gun, because here in Texas you can open carry an AK-47 or an AR-15 or a shotgun with a 100-round drum on it with no license, no rules or regulation. But you can't do it with a pistol. It's insane. So we were bringing attention to that. Guns is near and dear to my heart. I don't believe that government has any right whatsoever to intrude on your freedom to defend yourself, whether it's with a sword, whether it's with a bazooka, nunchucks, whatever. I don't think there should be any rules, law, and regulation against the right to defend yourself. So another issue, of course, is cannabis. The war on drugs in general is a complete waste of time and resources, and I would like to get rid of it completely and pardon people for those crimes that have been committed, supposedly. The next issue is taxes. I can't stand property taxes, let alone any tax in general. I would like to eliminate the property tax as soon as possible and lower all taxes all the way down to zero as fast as possible. So those are my three main issues.
Let's talk about the war on drugs for a second. What is the legal state of cannabis and/or medical cannabis in Texas? Where does Texas stand?
Okay, well, we've had some really good movement here lately with cannabis activism in Texas. Big ups to Heather Fazio and a bunch of other people out there really pushing hard and keeping people updated on what's going behind the curtain of tyranny down in Austin. But we were close to having, I don't want to say close, it was looking good for decriminalization, where here in Texas, if you got caught with 2 ounces or less, you couldn't be arrested and put in a cage anymore. They could only give you a $250 ticket. So, like I said, that's one of those steps in the right direction, those little baby steps. But we couldn't even get that this time. You know, I mean, it's pretty. If you go out and you ask people, it's 2017. Cannabis should be legal by now. You know, we should be researching and studying this stuff in the full extent to figure out what the benefits are from cannabis. And so, yeah, we're way behind here in Texas. In medical, we had a good push for medical the last 2 legislations, and they've just been killed in minutes. They killed them on purpose, and and they leave us hanging. So we don't have medical cannabis or any kind of decriminalization here in Texas right now. We're way behind.
And yet this is a state that in many cases is synonymous with the term freedom. The popular conception of Texas is that, don't mess with Texas, and that, personal freedom and individualism is encouraged. Wow, I mean, that's, it's disappointing. Even in Rhode Island, we actually had one of the earliest and most successful medical cannabis programs in the country. Like everywhere, we're struggling in getting over what I think is a generational issue and in coming to terms with a natural plant being no different than a glass of bourbon or a cigarette or any other plant, it being personal choice. As a libertarian, we've come sort of full circle in Rhode Island. I've moved from being a pragmatist to I'll call myself, and libertarians we all tend to navel gaze at what we are and where we stand. I guess I would consider myself something of a minarchist now, moving gradually further and further to the A word. Still coming to grips with it as a middle-aged guy who. The first campaign I ever worked on was, believe it or not, in 1972 for Richard Nixon as a 12-year-old. So it's been a long journey. That's my excuse. How would you describe yourself on that spectrum? Where do you find yourself on the big L and little L spectrum right now?
Right. I don't really like to label myself anything. I leave that up to everybody else. But I am a firm believer that we do not need government for anything at all. I believe that leaders will arise themselves in the community based on their leadership, the way they lead by example. They love people, they communicate people, and they're honest and loyal. Those people will rise up in general. And when issues come to the table, those people will be sought out to come up with solutions. I believe we should always have free market, force, never have force in our solutions to make people do something that, maybe they disagree with. So I am, some people would label me an anarchist or a hardcore libertarian, and I'm okay with that. That's fine if they want to say that.
If being a libertarian is wrong, you don't want to be right. The border security has got to be a pretty emotional issue in the state of Texas. Now, as libertarians, we all believe in the free exchange of people, capital, and ideas. Emphasis on all three. Those are co-equal to us. One should not suffer at the hands of the other. How does the libertarian attitude towards borders play in a border state like Texas? Is that a challenge to you as a budding politician, an activist, someone involved intimately in the community? Is that a challenge to explain to people? What do Texans really think, as opposed to what the media wants to tell us they think?
Very well. Unfortunately, the media plays a very heavy role in how people think. And here in Texas, a lot of people are duped into believing that we need some government down there on the border, whether it's building a wall or down there with guns and protecting it. Some people would be okay with spending, millions and billions of dollars to protect the border, but I think we're overlooking the real issue, and the issue is government itself. And I think we can come up with much better solutions than giving them the power to have full control over something when we know they're evil and corrupt. And that's why the war on drugs is the way it is because they have power of the border and all that good stuff. So it's kind of hard. We live in a state that is heavily Republican, and a lot of people believe in the border security issue and that we need government solutions for that.
But they haven't really worked, have they? I mean, the government's been trying to solve border security now for a few generations. Are people ready to accept that they failed?
Well, I would hope so, and you would think so, but unfortunately, the system plays those dirty mind tricks on people to keep them believing in the system, and it's a big circle.
I know here in Rhode Island when Donald Trump enacted the refugee ban, people were appalled because a lot of the people that you were preventing from entering the country were some of the most freedom-loving people in the world, people who had literally put their lives at stake and coming from some of the most difficult, most violent environments anywhere on the planet. Now, you folks see that all the time. You live the failed drug war every day, in the sense that you've got people fleeing narco-terrorism, a narco-terrorism that is ultimately inspired by our 18th century reefer madness approach to prohibition. Why haven't, I mean, in a state like Texas where the failure of the drug war is front and center, it takes a disproportionate amount of money, it encourages violence against people. What's it going to take, do you think? I mean, clearly, you become governor. What's some of the first actions you would take in trying to bring this madness to an end?
Wow, that is an awesome question. You know, I wouldn't even know where to start. It's a mess. It's a big mess, and I think that people we just need to figure out how to tap into the ideology of other people and to get them to realize those same things that we realize, that it is a mess, and it is destroying people's lives and our country and our state. And I think it's just about leading by example, educating people and loving people. That's the way we'll get our message out there and change the hearts and the minds of people. I think that a lot of people already get that message. They really do. It's just they don't really know how to go about making real change. And some people are frightened to do so or scared. They don't want to get up and do anything, or sadly, maybe they're so apathetic and entertained, they just don't get up and do anything. So there's a lot of things that come into play.
Folks, if you're just joining us, we've got live via Skype here at the Go Local Live Network Studios at 90 Wave Austin Street in Providence, Kory Watkins. Kory is running for the nomination to run as the Libertarian Party candidate to be governor of the great state of Texas. And we're finding out just through, and this is the beauty of technology, we're going to continue to use this forum to reach out to libertarians nationwide to try and get an understanding of the environments that they're working in, the challenges they face, and some of the truths, but also some of the misconceptions of the states and the government and the environment that they are working so hard to change, to really gain an understanding. What's fascinating to me is that on one hand, like I said, and don't want to obsess over this, but Texas is so synonymous with freedom to many of us here in the great Northeast. We feel oppressed, but yet, again, the war on drugs, the war on narcoterrorism is first and foremost. Now, throughout Texas, you have these enterprise zones in Mexico, and they directly abut the Texas border, these maquiladoras, where, in a sense, we allow, through trade agreements, free enterprise at some level to take place. How is it that in certain cases within these economic zones in Mexico, there's more free enterprise than there is in the United States? You know, is that a function of our tax system? Do you think it's time to change our tax system?
Absolutely. We need to I think interaction should be voluntary. I believe that if I go to work, I should be able to keep every single penny that I earn, and I should be able to spend every single penny where I want it to go. And nobody should have say otherwise. You know, if I want to, if there's a service good enough, it's going to be paid for. The free market's going to take care of that. Government always tries to implement these things by force to get us to buy into it or use it or whatever, and most of the time it never ends up working. So,
you couple that with a federal tax system that rewards cronyism. Is cronyism as big a problem in Texas as it is in the rest of the country? Is the government trying to subsidize chosen businesses there as well?
The government is up our tail every angle in Texas. It's we're living in modern day slavery. I'm a slave here in Texas. I ask my government for most of the things that I do each day, like drive, and I have to pay taxes on pretty much everything. I mean, I owed $1,700 in property taxes this year, and that's after they stole money from me out of my paycheck all year, and then I paid sales tax all year. I mean, I'm getting taxed on like 50% of what I make. I take home 50% and they get the other 50%. That's mafia style stuff if I'm concerned.
We seem to have this romantic, I call it a romantic attachment to a failed social construct that somehow promises that if we pay confiscatory taxes under the threat of force, the government will introduce some level of fairness into our society. You've seen any instances where government made life fairer?
No, never. I think we as people can come up with much better solutions than government can. I think they just need to go away.
How about, what's the education system like where you live in Texas? A fascinating question came up from Arvin Vora, and I'm sure you know Arvin.
Yep.
Arvin, and I want to give credit where due, I believe it was Arvin who posited the question that if you live in a town or a city, anywhere in the United States, where the cost per student is, say, $15,000, and you were given the opportunity to take that $15,000 and either spend it at your school system or spend it elsewhere. In Texas, would you spend that $15,000 at your local school system, or would you find alternatives to provide for the education of your children?
Well, I have already found alternatives. I homeschool both my kids, and here in Texas we actually are ahead of most states with at least one thing in Texas, and that is homeschooling. Here in Texas, there's almost no law, rule, or regulation against homeschooling whatsoever. And we have a very good group of people who are fighting to keep it that way because they are trying their hardest to just dip their toe into our freedom when it comes to homeschooling. But that's how it starts. They get their toe in it, and then they start putting their whole feet in it, and then by the time you realize they're intruding, they got their knees in it. So here in Texas, we're really lucky when it comes to homeschooling, and I am a huge advocate for homeschooling, and I would like to see all schools privatized. I think if a service is good enough, the free market will take care of it. And if you want your kid to be educated, you will find a way to do that. You will.
How are the public school systems where you live?
They're pretty good as far as public school systems. It's nothing that I would put my kid into, but as far as lining up against other school systems, from what I've heard, we do have a pretty good, decent public school system here in Texas, but that's not saying much. I don't like it at all.
Okay. There's been a lot of controversy lately about the choice to run as a libertarian, or perhaps to run as an independent, or to run as one of the major parties. You've taken the high road. You've embraced not only the libertarian movement, but one of the reasons why we call you Libertarian Fabulous is that you're willing to also embrace the Libertarian Party and run for major office as a libertarian. Was that a difficult decision for you? What were some of the thought processes that you went through?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that the people who I am really close to in the party and stuff like that, that this was something that, we all wanted, something that we wanted to see get done. We wanted a really good, hardcore libertarian candidate here in Texas. And, we were searching for that person, and a couple things came up to, where I could possibly be in that position. And I said, the heck with it. I'm 34 years young. I only will live once. I'm a diehard lover for the cause of freedom, and I'm very passionate. And I have a little bit of free time. My work schedule and stuff allows me to get around and be out there on the campaign trail. And I want to run a campaign that libertarians aren't used to seeing on the local state level. I want to travel around the whole state of Texas. I want to raise thousands and thousands of dollars, and I want to spread the message of libertarianism and freedom across the state. And I want to get people excited. I'm not trying to really bring in one demographic. I'm not trying to relate to libertarian Republicans or libertarian Democrats. I want to try to get the message of freedom out there, and that will attract people in general. And actually, it'll probably attract that 46 to 49% crowd that stays home and doesn't vote because they can't stand any of the people running. So that's what I want to give those people something to get excited about and come out and vote. But it didn't take much, you know. I just people that said they were going to be behind me, and people that said they wanted to give me their axe, their sword, and their hammer and be on my team. So that's all it took.
Excellent, excellent. Now, the Mark Wicks campaign in Montana has had a ripple effect across the entire Libertarian Party and Libertarian movement. What I mean by that is that you had that one moment when all of a sudden folks from around the country came together to work to get Mark Wicks into the debate in Montana so that he could sit on the same stage as the two failed major parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, and give us an opportunity to put forth our philosophy, explain our positions directly to the American people, absent any of the typical filtering and the media mumbo, you know, hocus pocus that takes place when the media is allowed to interpret our position for us. And that's what led me to these series of broadcasts, because I realized that it's critical for candidates like you, and there's a variety of folks in the libertarian media world that are probably going to do the same thing, and it's great. The more the merrier, the more the better. There's no competition here amongst libertarian media outlets. It should be mutual support.
Right.
So we want candidates like you to come on and just bluntly tell us, you know, first of all, tell us your website. You've got plans to crisscross one of the largest, most challenging states in the nation and spread your message of libertarianism. Something some of our national candidates might have done a better job at if they were a little bit more focused on it. That's me saying that, that's not you. Okay?
Yeah.
So where can folks go to your website? And most importantly, where can libertarians from around the country, not just Texas, but I'm talking Rhode Island, I'm talking Massachusetts, Florida, Oregon, Washington, how can they donate to your cause?
Absolutely. You can go to my website. It's Kory Watkins for Texas.com. That's Kory, of course, Kory Watkins for Texas.com. And you can just scroll down and you'll see the donate button. Just donate to that baby. We appreciate anything. Any donation is not too small, and we appreciate anything that comes our way. Currently, we're doing a money bomb right now, $10 for 10 events. So basically, we're asking people to donate $10 to send me to 10 or more events in the state of Texas here in August. And we got a pretty stout lineup already. To visit some Libertarian county meetings and go to some of the Houston Normal. I don't know if you've ever heard of Normal.
We're fans of Normal. We do have a Rhode Island Normal as well. You know, we're big supporters of Normal, and myself and Tony Jones, who is you know, kept the lights on here for so long in the libertarian movement in Rhode Island. He and I both actively testify at the State House in favor of legalization and also beating back attempts to encroach on what is a very successful medical cannabis program. So, you know, how daunting is that? I mean, Texas is huge. Rhode Island is probably, our state is probably about the size of the city limits of Houston. So, you know, you're going to run a grassroots hard, from what I can tell, and I've talked to Desiree and a few people surrounding your campaign, you're going to run a balls to the wall, on fire campaign. But people need to know that if you're going to spread the libertarian message around Texas, you know, hell, that's going to be a heck of an effort. I mean, you're going to see parts of Texas that probably you've never seen before, and wow, that's impressive. How are you going to do all that?
So I'm going to do it with an amazing campaign team, an amazing wife, and an amazing family, and people who surround me and support me, that lift me up every day and keep me going. That's how it's going to be done. And it's going to be easy because I have wonderful people around me, so I'm very blessed.
Excellent. How tricky is it, how tough is it And I say this in a positive manner because I want people to understand who listen to the show now or who listen to the recording of this. You've got dozens of major media markets in Texas. Your mission is obviously to gain some entree to as many of those as possible. How can people in Texas and the rest of the country help you get the attention you need to spread your message with those media markets?
Yeah, if you know any media, have any contacts, you can send them to us or reach out to them and see if they would be interested in getting with us, whatever the case may be. If it's an interview or whatever, that would be awesome. We would love that. You can go onto the website, KoryWatkinsForTexas.com, and send out an email to info@KoryWatkinsForTexas.com, and we would love to hear from anybody that wants to help out the campaign, however you may help, whether it's maybe just sharing stuff on social media, donating money, spreading the word, or whatever the case may be. We're open for any help whatsoever. It's definitely a grassroots campaign.
Michelle McCutcheon over at the Feldman Group and her crew have done an astonishing job of setting up what I call a rapid reaction force to ensure libertarian participation in debates everywhere. And I know they could use your help, but listeners' help as callers, because I've watched on the sidelines a couple of times, and those folks who have been foolish enough to think that they can ignore a libertarian message from the likes of Kory Watkins have attempted to exclude us from debates, and they have swiftly felt the very polite but still the wrath of Michelle and her crew. I hope you're going to keep us appraised of any of those opportunities that come up, because it's a powerful moment when people like you, when Alicia, Arvin, Larry, any one of it's seemingly, I think the goal is 2,000 candidates across the country, stand side by side with members of the failed major parties, and we begin to understand that candidates like Kory, as the youngins like to say, have a take, have a philosophy, have a belief system, and understand very quickly in comparison when you talk to someone like Kory that the other major parties really, they're flexible in their belief system, and they accommodate people in their belief system, and that's a nice way of saying that they adjust what they purport to believe in to the moment, to whoever they happen to be talking with. You're pretty hardcore, aren't you? You're unapologetically libertarian. Is that a fair statement?
Without question, absolutely. And I am. It takes me a lot to keep my lip sealed when I hear something that goes against what I believe, and I want to voice my opinion about it. So yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Do you have other candidates running on the other ticket, or are you guys still in the formation stages as far as that locally in your part of Texas?
Yeah, as far as I know, I was actually one of the first candidates to actually announce and officially file and all that good stuff. Currently, no other libertarian has officially filed or announced that they're running, and I believe the only other really major person that has would be Greg Abbott.
Mm-hmm.
He announced, of course, and I don't know if Wendy Davis is going to do the Democrat ticket again. I'm not too sure, but as far as I know, no Democrat has announced either. So we're in the very beginning stages.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you joining us. One more time, give us where people can reach you, where they can donate, and most importantly, hit us with those issues again. Give us a snapshot of on the 3 or 4 top issues you mentioned, exactly, unedited, unfiltered, where Kory Watkins stands.
Absolutely. Well, the first the website is KoryWatkinsForTexas.com. It's Kory, KoryWatkinsForTexas.com. That's where you can find out more about my issues and donate and learn how you can help out on the campaign. I'm really active on Facebook as well, so just check out Kory Watkins on Facebook. You can follow me there and stuff. I'm very open to communication. I am not one of those people that just ignore people. If you give me a message, I'm going to respond. I'm very good about communicating and getting back to people. So my 3 main issues here in Texas, and I believe are near and dear to many Texans, 3 main issues would be guns, I don't think the government has any say whatsoever in how we defend ourselves, whether it's via gun or anything else, sword, nunchucks, whatever. We should have the right to defend ourselves however we see fit, period. Period. That's it here in Texas. No government involved whatsoever. I also want to try to do whatever we can here in Texas to end the war on drugs. And first and foremost, give people the need for medical cannabis if they need that, or whatever case, epilepsy, cancer, sleeping disorders, all kinds of things medical cannabis can help out with. We need to get that done immediately and stop taking away from people that need medical help. It's really disturbing. And we also need to stop locking people up. So the war on drugs is very near and dear to my heart. And then the third issue is property taxes and taxes in general. We need to eliminate the property tax immediately, and we need to reduce taxes as fast as possible, all the way down to zero. Any service needs to be free market. It shouldn't be done by force.
And finally, I'm sensing that you're a firm believer in the non-aggression principle, aren't you?
Absolutely. It's very near and dear to my heart, and the non-aggression principle has changed my life. It really has.
Explain, we've got a lot of folks in Rhode Island who are still new to the Libertarian Party. Explain your take on the non-aggression principle.
My take on the non-aggression principle is dealing with issues and not having force when you're dealing with those issues. I do no harm unto you. Don't do any harm to me. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. Let's respect each other's freedoms. We shouldn't be using force for anything at all. Whether it's forcing people to pay for something or using abusive force towards anybody. The non-aggression principle is very correct in its way of handling issues in a very peaceful manner that resolves things with love and peace, and people can move forward and respect those ideas rather than have something that requires force and that'll take your money and possibly hurt you, physically. So,
excellent, folks. First of all, Kory, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will continue to spread the Kory Watkins message across the country here from our little outpost in, as I like to call it, Socialist Workers Paradise, Rhode Island. You've got our love and support here. We wish you all the best in the campaign. Again, Kory Watkins for governor. You can find him on Facebook. He's got a money bomb going on right now. Listen, consider that money bomb. It's going to be going on now through sometime in early November of 2018. So just this is my mantra, if every libertarian who listens to this show, who voted for Gary Johnson, or you're just out there and you see this on Facebook, gifted his campaign with $5 or $10 or $20, every one of us just kicked in. Imagine what that could do for the message of liberty in the great state of Texas. It would absolutely be a game changer. And that, I think, is the biggest part of the new libertarian revolution is the acknowledgement that we all need to support libertarian candidates regardless of where they live, regardless of what office they're running for. Each one of them, like Kory Watkins tonight, is uniquely qualified to spread the message of small government, independence, personal self-determination, and the message of liberty around the country. All of us need to do a little bit, and we can accomplish great things. Kory, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And now you and I will be talking soon.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a true honor. Thank you so much.